First, I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming to the Solo Ager series. For those of you who don't know me, I am Paula Amaker, and I am a senior-focused real estate agent. And what I have done is created this safe space for individuals to come. I service seniors and their adult children through the whole transition of downsizing to that next chapter, whatever that may look like for the individuals. And I was noticing that as I continued to help these families, that there were certain topics and things that came up about aging, about preparing, about downsizing. And I wanted to create this safe space where we could come, get the information and the resources without anyone selling you anything. Because it seemed like every time you went somewhere, someone wanted to sell you something. So this is not a sales pitch. The only thing that we're doing today is providing you with information and resources. So today is about solo agers, and this is something I have to say that is new to me. And I came across a community of solo agers on a webinar. And that is when I gained the understanding that there was a completely other community of older adults that needed to be serviced. So when I got that, my eyes were open and I knew I just had to put something together. And so I mentioned that to some individuals in my Downsizers Club, and so many hands were raised like, Paula, yes, that is me. I would love to get information about being a solo ager. So this is why this event was put together today. A situation that happened is that there was an individual I knew, older lady, and she was independent. She lived alone, didn't have a spouse, and her children did not live nearby. And everything was fine with her. She was very active, outgoing, until a situation that happened medically. And when that situation happened medically, the conversation shifted. And it wasn't even all about the medical situation. It was about her saying, who do I have to speak for me? Who do I have that can make decisions for me when I can't? So that situation has brought forth, again, this conversation that we're having today. And I am so very pleased to my panelists here. And I wanted to make this a well-rounded discussion. So they're going to be coming from two different perspectives. So we have Kim, who is going to be coming from the legal perspective of this, and then we have Steve that's going to come from more of a solo agers community. And so you're going to get both of these perspectives today. Without further ado, I'm going to start with Kim. Kim, if you would just simply introduce yourself, tell them who you are and who you serve.
My name's Kim Battaglia. I am an elder care attorney. We have offices in Belcamp, Towson, and here in Columbia. I do primarily elder care planning, estate planning, and probate. And I can say probably about 70% of my practice is dealing with the elder care community. And a lot of my clients are solo agers. So, I thank you for inviting me today.
Absolutely.
My name is Steve Gurney, and I published the Positive Aging Sourcebook, of which you can get a copy back there. And I stumbled into this topic of solo aging, similar to the story that you just shared, by accident. I noticed people started on our webinars, started referring to themselves as solo. And then I went and did a little bit of research. I found an author of a book. And then I hosted a webinar on solo aging that turned out for that webinar than our normal webinars. And so what we've done is formed a community called the Solo Aging Club. A lot of times people will share, I had a crisis and it sent up a flag that I got to come up with a game plan. So it's not a debilitating crisis, but it might be just a fall or getting a ride home from a medical appointment, and all of a sudden my existing network of rides is not as accessible as they once were. What I realized when I ventured down this solo aging path is how we go through life and we just accidentally accumulate friends, family, and loved ones, okay? And then a crisis ensues And we expect them to come to our rescue without sort of having the structure of an HR department and conversations. What I tell folks is it doesn't need to be a term paper, but just over time, make a list of everybody in your life, okay? Just, pull out a notebook, use a spreadsheet, whatever your preference, make a list of everybody in your life and start reflecting on, what you can do for them and what they might do for you.
I love this because you're coming from a place of contribution as opposed to, making that call of what can you do for me?
Yeah.
Can I call you when I need something? Coming from a place of contribution and then building that relationship.
I first started talking about this and I said, make that list and now start reaching out to all these people and start having conversations. And this one woman called me completely distraught and frustrated. She goes, none of these people want to help me, okay?
Oh, no.
And I said, well, what are you saying to them? And she's like, well, I just called, Cindy, and I said, if I needed a ride back from the hospital, would you be willing to give it to me? I was like, whoa. Let's try a different approach. And she had 14 people on her list. She had called 7. I said, try this for the next 7. Instead of asking them to do something for you, figure out what you would do for them. And so here's how it went, is that, hi, Cindy, I've been thinking, because I've been seeing a lot of our friends are, becoming more isolated and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted you to know that if you ever, you know how much I like baking and cooking. If you ever needed somebody to cook you a meal because you didn't want to cook one night or if you became ill, you call me. I'm your lady. Now, Cindy has the option of answering that question 2 ways. One is, oh, that's nice, click, okay. Cindy could still be your best friend, okay. Or Cindy could say, wow, that's really thoughtful for you. And I just wanted to let you know is that I know you don't like driving at night. Anytime I'm available, I'd like to give you a ride. Now, the Cindy number 1, she can still be your best friend. You can still play mahjong and go play pickleball with her. Cindy number 2, that's somebody that you put on the checklist that it's like, this is somebody that might help me in emergency or when I need it, but this requires more of a dialogue, okay?
Yes, that's great. And so I love that perspective of that community-based, just kind of building up your support system with making friends. So Kim, again, what are some of the concerns that you see with solo agers from that legal perspective?
From the legal perspective, it's a lot of people are looking for someone they can trust. A lot of people are coming to me and I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to appoint. And I tell them, it's really important that you put yourself out there and start making friends. At this age group, we're all able and we can get out there and start making the friends and the connections. Some people, they get to the point where, and they can't, they're taking care of a loved one, they're taking care of their husband. Have a lot of elderly people taking care of their kids, so they're stuck. They can't leave the house as often as they want. Pick up the phone, invite a friend over, just keep those relationships going, because what starts to happen is you see a lot of undue influence start coming in. And that's when, they reach out to me and, neighbors especially, they're always calling me saying, Kim, I have a neighbor, I noticed some things are going on over there. Could I bring her in to talk to you? So I see a lot of that going on.
Okay. I love it that you mentioned that, choosing someone who will be able to do that for you, because an individual I spoke with, she was naming medical power of attorney, and she says, I purposely did not list my daughters. She said, I listed my best friend. She says, because when that time comes, I don't believe that my daughters will be able to make that tough decision to, terminate life support. So she got her best friend who understood her.
I'm definitely
and was just like, I know my best friend knows that I do not want to live my life like this. And that if I said, hey, I don't want to live like that, she will come right in and pull the plug out herself. So,
Well,
yeah.
I didn't appoint my husband. My husband loves me to death. I know that. And he does not want to see me suffer, but he is not going to pull that plug until he's ready.
What are the documents that a solo age, or anyone as a matter of fact, should have in place?
Got it. So the two documents that everybody should have in place while they're alive is a good advanced healthcare directive, whereby you appoint someone to make healthcare decisions for you. Or it's not that they're necessarily making healthcare decisions for you, but if you're sitting with a doctor, because I've been put in that position where the doctor is telling me a diagnosis, I don't hear what the doctor's saying. I hear womp, womp, womp. So if you have that person with you, the document will also allow the physician to talk to your agent so that when you're starting to feel better and you're in a better place to hear it, they can communicate that with you. So it's good, you have a team. The financial power of attorney will allow someone to assist you financially. It doesn't necessarily mean if you cannot. It's even if you don't want to or you don't feel like it. You trust the person, oh, you go ahead and take care of it. They're paying your bills, paying your mortgage, doing anything you need. The problem with that document is that over time, that document is so strong now that they basically can walk in your shoes and somebody can wipe you out with that document. So that's why it's going to be critical that you choose someone you trust.
Not just someone you trust, but someone that has the ability to do that. Because, and I'm just using this example of someone that has children, is that this lady told me, she says, I will appoint my daughter to handle my finances because she's got the smarts to do it. She wouldn't have her son to do it, not because she didn't trust him. He just wouldn't be able to, he wouldn't be the best person for that. Also, making sure that you're not choosing someone just because, oh, well, I really like them. Making sure they have the ability to act when they need to act.
And of course, it could be that one person that you're choosing has the ability to do it, but what are their financial portfolio look like? Are they filing bankruptcy? Things like that. Are they behind on their bills? If you hear somebody start talking to you about their own financial crisis, don't choose them. Because for whatever reason, and they say they'll never do it, that money's sitting there and they have access to it, it happens. It's not going to always happen, but it does happen a lot.
So you mentioned advanced healthcare directive or medical directive, that, and financial power of attorney. What position does someone have as acting as power of attorney if it's not financial or medical? Is there a difference in that? To know.
An advanced healthcare directive, living will, you hear they're intertwined. In advance, there's two documents. One is for health, one is for finances.
So let me ask you, Steve, are you seeing people in your community challenged with these same situations?
Yeah, this is what I was telling you at the beginning. I was so glad when Kim was on this panel because I knew a portion of our time was going to be talking about this. But let me kind of throw some alternatives on the pile, and I'm going to talk about some professions that might help sort this out and enable individuals here and your neighbors to sleep a little bit better at night. Okay, so the first thing is, to clarify, you can have somebody be your healthcare power of attorney and you can have a different person be a financial power of attorney. So there's kind of a cooperative here. But I'm going to throw a couple of professions that can make Kim's life tremendously easier, make her sleep at night better. And I know she's got clients that have done this. The first profession is called an aging life care manager, and we list them all in the source book. These are primarily nursing and social work trained professionals that can come and make an assessment. They're like a quarterback or a wedding planner for aging. Now, I'm going to introduce you to another really cool profession that can help the financial power of attorney. It's called daily money managers.
Yes.
Okay? These are not financial planners. These are bookkeepers for our lives, okay? Like Kim was saying, when you hire a daily money manager, they're helping pay bills and review what's coming in. I've never talked to a daily money manager that didn't thwart a fraud situation, whether it be an email fraud or a family member or something like that.
Are you finding that, both of you, are you finding that individuals are taking these steps early to plan, or are you seeing that a lot of them are acting out of a crisis? Because I
Out of a
know
crisis.
in my situation of helping
I
families,
see a lot in crisis.
they're coming in crisis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is why I love talking about solo aging.
Really?
No. And I'm telling you,
kidding.
yeah, you guys can't tell. No, because for my career, for 35 years, I've been dealing daily with these crisis phone calls and people not just taking simple steps. And what I will tell you, all of you in this room right now, anybody who's listening to this, you were brave enough to come to an event on
Yes.
solo aging. Like, whether you realize it or not, you are doing way more than most of the population that's out there. And I find that very positive and encouraging. And I know it's hard because, like we said, a lot of times this topic might seem like it's depressing, but for me, it's empowering because I see
Yes.
people that are brave enough to start thinking about steps. And
Yes.
I wrote an article a couple of years ago on, and I saw this firsthand in my community of Reston. Single parents and solo agers have way more in common with each other than individuals of their own age cohort. And where I saw this firsthand was in my own community, where there was a single mom raising kids and a recently widowed woman across the street. And they came together, they go to the pool together, they go grocery shopping together. Single parent would cook dinner and the solo ager would help with the homework. It was just a beautiful thing. And when you talked about your daughter, it made me really reflect on that. Is that
Community.
Think outside of the box in terms of community. There's some really creative programs out there, and there's no reason why they can't get going here. But one of the coolest ones that I first heard about was a closed down military base where they made it housing for families that are foster children and low income older adults that were open to helping raise the foster children. What a beautiful. It was in Ohio. I don't know if that one's still in operation, but I know there's some things like this around.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So really cool stuff.
So I'm hearing, it's different for everyone. That situation is different than your situation, which is different than my situation. So again, just sitting down with you with everything.
Right. The biggest issue is, what you're saying, I can't tell you how many times people want to trust and then they don't fund it. They don't, because it takes a lot of work to retitle assets and put it into the name of the trust.
So you said something, they would get a trust and not fund the trust. Explain what funding the trust is.
Changing the ownership of a majority of the assets into the name of the trust.
Okay.
Whether it be the deed to the home, whether it be bank accounts. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but what happens is you need to sit down with somebody because, so for instance, I look at the whole picture, okay? You want to trust, okay? Your husband's declining. That trust isn't going to protect all the assets. So I'm now moving in another direction because I'm going to show you how to protect all of the assets. And that trust isn't going to be the answer. So it just depends on what is going on in your particular life, and what you need.
Yes.
And it depends, do you have kids? Do you have a disabled child? One of the ones that I had was husband knew he was going to pass away. And he knew his son was just going to browbeat his wife to death for money. So he created a trust, put everything into the trust, and had a trustee who could manage it to make sure that the money was there for her. He loved his son. Upon mom's death, the son got everything, but he wanted to make sure she was taken care of. So there's different reasons to use a trust.
Great. So before we end, I would love for you guys to leave the audience with something practical that they can do today to put into action of planning. Steve.
Okay. I would say the best thing for everybody to do is just make a list of everybody in your life. Like that is the best thing, and begin to sort of think about yourself as a manager of an HR department and who of these
like
folks will help with those 4 questions that I brought up. Because if none of those
Repeat the 4 questions.
Oh, driving, not being able to drive, having mobility issues, your friend circle is getting smaller, and dementia, and thinking about our personal village and how they can support us. And then we learned today we've got great organizations like the Villages and ride programs that can supplement our friends, family, and loved ones and neighbors. So that would be my first thing.
Fantastic. Kim?
Mine would be, if you have documents in place, great. Take a look at them. Are the individuals that you chose, are they still with us? Are they still capable? If not, do you want to appoint somebody else? And for individuals who do not have documents in place yet, think about, getting those documents in place and start thinking about who you want to appoint to be your agent.
Fantastic. I want to just say thank you all for coming here and for you taking the first step. Sitting in this room, listening to the information that's being shared today, that is your first step. You came to get information, you came to get resources. My whole goal is to help each and every one of you to feel that you have been educated, that you have now been equipped, and that you can leave here feeling empowered to take control of your future by putting things in place. Okay. Thank you all. Thank our panel. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Steve, very much for being here today. So it is the 4th Wednesday of each month, right here at the East Columbia 50 Plus Center. We have a Downsizers Club. We meet from 11 to 12:30. I would love to have you.